Hey there, beautiful souls. I'm Colleen Lockoff.
And I'm Meredy Lockoff.
And welcome to Spiritual Sisters with Sass, the podcast where two sisters with a passion for spirituality and a touch of sass come together to explore the exciting world of self-improvement.
That's right, Colleen. We embarked on this incredible journey together, diving into different self-improvement techniques, yoga practices, and a whole array of life experiences.
Yeah, and through it all, we've managed to create lives that are abundant, happy, and constantly evolving. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it, Meredy?
You bet, sis. We've got two very different perspectives on life, but that's what makes this podcast so special. I'm all about diving in head first into life's adventures and embracing every challenge with a bit of sass. While Colleen here, she's got her own unique approach.
Yep, that's me. And I'm all about the yoga, mindfulness, and finding my zen. And together we make the perfect balance.
So whether you're looking for some wisdom, a few laughs, or just some heartfelt stories, you're in the right place. We're here to share our personal experiences and insights with you, all while exploring the wild and diverse world of self-improvement.
So grab your headphones and get ready for a fantastic journey with us. Spiritual Sisters with Sass is here to uplift, inspire, and keep it real.
Thanks for tuning in, lovely listeners. Let's dive in.
Spirit and sass. Here we go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Spiritual Sisters with Sass. Today, Lynn was not able to make it, so I am here with one of my best friends, Tania. Say hi, Tania.
Hello, Meredy.
So we are talking to Tania today because Tania has, first of all, covered almost 65% of my body in her art. I am covered in Tania's tattoos. I, in fact, have, for those watching, on the side of my body, it says eye candy. And that was Tania's business name. There was going to be ink added to it at one point, but we decided not to at some point. I don't remember, because many, many times we decided on a tattoo and then we would come in to see each other and it would be like, no, we're not doing that. We're doing something completely different.
Completely different.
So today I wanted to come on here and have a conversation with Tania. As you guys can see, Tania has ALS, and I wanted to share, and she wanted to share her story with you guys as to how ALS has affected her as a human, as an artist, as a mom, in all the different ways. And one of the things I want to let you guys know is that sometimes you may find that there's a little delay in finding her words. She has a little bit of brain fog due to not getting enough oxygen because of her disease. So my first question, Tania, is tell me about your ALS as you have learned to describe it.
Thanks. It's a crazy condition. So what the illness does to the body is it kind of attacks the motor neurons that go from the spinal column or the brainstem to the muscles, and it snips those motor neurons so that the brain can't communicate with the muscles any longer, and therefore the muscles get paralyzed and immovable. And this happens to all of the voluntary muscles in the body, which most muscles are your leg muscles for walking, your arm muscles for reaching things and hugging, and even your tongue is a voluntary muscle. So your speech is affected. Yeah.
And tell us how your ALS has progressed. How did yours start? How long ago were you diagnosed?
Okay,
And
so
how has it progressed?
yeah, that's a great question, because ALS is very personal. So how it manifested for myself, or how it's presenting, is I have limb onset ALS, which started in my left leg, and I got weakness in my left leg and balance issues, tripping, falling. And I first noticed the symptoms 7 years ago. Um, and as it became more and more apparent that there was something wrong, as in leading into things called muscle fasciculations, where the muscles just get that twitch, kind of like the twitch that you get in your eye sometimes. That was happening in my legs. And from there, also the muscle cramping. And it was quite painful. So it moved from one leg into the other leg. And once it became so bad that I couldn't ignore it any longer, I went to the doctor, and it wasn't until 2019 that I got the diagnosis, which was a couple years after my symptoms began. So I've had it now for about 7 years and diagnosed for 5. So as we're sitting here at 7 years, I'm paralyzed from the neck down, with the ability to move a finger and a toe, which obviously that's not wonderful. But I do still have my speech, and for the most part, I still have my breathing, which there are two kind of main things that go. And I feel very fortunate that it's one of the last things, because in some people and how others present, sometimes that's the first thing that becomes recognizable, is their speech slur and their diaphragm, which is a voluntary muscle, stops working, and you're not able to breathe properly without the use of say a BiPAP or that other breathing machine thing.
I don't even know what the other breathing machine is. It's not the CPAP. That one's for
No,
forcing air.
it's actually more invasive when they hook you up to the machine, I think.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting and challenging ride.
Yes.
Slowly losing access to things that she had, and now as an artist, this has been a good progression for her along the way, in the sense that she said my legs went first and I was able to keep using my hands. She tattooed until 2022.
When I was diagnosed in 2019, I immediately stopped tattooing. And then a couple of years later, I did just a few, like a small handful of tattoos.
Mostly on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mostly on me.
Yeah. But, in all honesty, I was so angry when I got my diagnosis that I quit tattooing, and I kind of hunkered down in my emotions of anger, and I had a lot of resentment about getting getting ALS. When you're diagnosed with ALS, they don't tell you a lot of what to expect, because it does manifest differently in everybody. But what they do make sure that you are well aware of is that you have a life expectancy of 2 to 5 years. and they tell you to get your affairs in order. So that definitely spurred a lot of anger, and a lot of uh, a lot of expecting the worst to come rapidly, a lot more rapidly than it has. 7 years is longer than 2 years.
Yes.
And if you already know that you had it for 2 years and they give you that kind of prognosis, you expect that your life will be ending
Very quickly.
very quickly. So I wasted a lot of time. Thanks to that prognosis, I wasted a lot of time in my own head, in my own anger, and um, and that was hard. So tattooing was
Also, there's been a good thing that's come from. There's been one for sure good thing I'm going to say that's come from this is
Sure.
the fact that Tania found the love of her life after diagnosis.
I did. Yeah, I found Kelly. He's amazing. He was a good friend all the way through since well before, and he's just been by my side all of this time, and um he wakes me up every day with a smile and helps me, helps me enjoy this life and brings me so much humor and gratitude. And yeah, it's kind of crazy and kind of funny that the such beautiful things can come out of something pretty traumatic.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And someone signing up, not knowing what he was getting into, but also knowing what he was getting into.
Yeah, crazy
Right?
fella. I tell
So
you.
that's a pretty cool thing that came out of this. Now I want to talk a little bit about your approach to art once you started to feel the effects in, say, your hands and your arms. How did that change? And what things are you doing now that, because I actually saw recently you just posted a picture of new art that you had created.
Yeah.
So even with the diagnosis and with no use of her arms, she's still creating art.
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Even the art I dropped until until just a couple years ago. I started doing some graphite drawings again, and doing a little bit of oil painting again. And
An incredible artist, you guys. Like, I can't even share enough. I'm going to take my jacket off here so that those who are watching can get just an idea of what my arm and my hand look like. This woman has a gift. And so when she did stop, I feel like there was a lot of just giving up anything that brought you joy at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of a lot of self-flagellance, I guess.
I feel like that's a pretty I don't want to say standard, but I feel like I would probably be impacted in similar ways. I feel like I have a positive life and a positive mindset, but what a thing to be told.
Yeah, and I thank you. I was typically of the mindset that we have all of this control over our bodies, and if we have disease or illness, it's a manifestation of our traumas, or our way of life, and our habits and all of that. And I always tried really hard through my life to heal from any traumas that I had, or treat my body the best way that I could, despite all of our everybody has their ups and downs. So I took it very personally against myself that I was the creator of this condition. And it's not that I maybe don't still feel that way. It's just now I feel like everything can be a gift, even if it's something that is hard to deal with, hard to live with. Yeah.
We've had many conversations about our purpose and our journeys on this planet, the difficulties obviously that come with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you and I have had a conversation about why you think that you were diagnosed with ALS and what your purpose with ALS was.
Can you say that one more time?
I can. I feel like we had conversations about why you were diagnosed with ALS, why you think your purpose, what the purpose of you having ALS was. Because in many of our conversations, we talked about like all things that happen in our lives have a purpose, whether they're good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And those experiences in general are there for a reason.
What did I say to that?
I can't remember at this
I
moment.
can't remember either.
I can't remember either. I feel like it was that you can still be you, that you can still do your art, and that regardless of the things you've done, I think that's part of it, is regardless of the things you've done in your life, you have no control. Because when Tania says she took care of her body, this lady literally didn't have a microwave in her house. So no food was microwaved. She ate only whole foods, nothing really processed.
I juiced a lot, did the yoga thing, meditated.
We became a yoga teacher. Practiced a lot of yoga, practiced a lot of the limbs of yoga. It wasn't just the asanas, which is the actions. She practiced a lot of the practices.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, and even with that, sometimes it's funny, we get into those things because of issues that we have, traumatic issues that we have, that we're trying to heal and repair. So I was doing my best to be a healthy human being, do all of those right choices, but it didn't come without other not ailments, but impacts, not downfalls. I don't want to say downfalls, but the with everything being balanced in this world, the balance to all of that was that I did suffer from alcohol addiction, and there was other things that I brought about in my life. I don't know, Meredy, how I'm trying to explain this. Again, with the brain fog, it's pissing me off. Yeah,
I feel that because I even understand, even when I'm trying to find a word, sometimes I get frustrated. So I understand that.
Yeah.
I think in many of our conversations, we have talked about how when our traumas surface, how they start to show physically. And how when we initially, I remember you had originally thought that you had been given a diagnosis of MS. And you were excited about that diagnosis.
Yeah, well, I was, I like thinking, I thought I was absolutely convinced 100% that it was MS. And I thought, well, it's something that could somewhat be manageable. There's life choices that we can always make, and certainly not downplaying MS as a condition or illness, because sometimes we can do everything in our power to have a healthy lifestyle, a healthy mind, body, and spirit, and you'll still get this appearing in your body, in your life.
But you were grateful that it wasn't a death sentence, is how you would put it to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it turned out to be ALS, and I was I was definitely pissed off, but despite that, after I kind of crawled out of my own cave of pity, um, I kind of just chose to be happy
You did for
about.
years, did lots of things. We started doing a lot more things suddenly. We spent a lot of
Mhm.
time. We traveled to, we went to Victoria and we spent a couple nights at the Empress Hotel, which
That
was
was
exciting.
that was fun.
We had my niece come and I remember just seeing that Tanya choosing joy literally was Tanya choosing joy, because we started doing things again and those things were challenging for her. And yeah, at that point, one leg didn't work very well at all, or didn't work at all while the other leg was starting to go. You were still choosing that we were doing the things. We were going to figure out how to do the things regardless of the outcome.
Mhm.
And she started tattooing again. She started doing art again. She started living in her joy regardless of what anybody said or what any doctor's opinion was at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, it absolutely, and I'm really glad that I turned that around.
Mhm.
I it's it is all a process though, so being patient with yourself, and if you need to be in a dark hole for a long time to mourn pieces of you, then that's what you need to do, and no one can just tell you, come on, live and enjoy your life while you have it, which is what the doctors say to do. And it's not that they're not right, but um, we all
Process different.
we all process different, absolutely, and there's no right or wrong way of going through this life. Um, it's it's all just ebbs and flows, isn't it?
It is. It is. And with your ALS so far, you've told me a lot of that is also on a daily at this point. Some days are great, some days are not, some days are okay. And then you'll have another fantastic day, and then you'll have another shitty day, and things just kind of ebb and flow.
It's so true, and sometimes it's down to the hour. Sometimes it's a good hour, and then it's a shit hour, and sometimes you do get a little bit longer to enjoy the absence of feeling crappy.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
But this illness doesn't get any easier with time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do. We all know um, how much we love our loved ones and how much we love being there for them. And we always say, you know, treasure everything as you have it for as long as you have it. Um, but it's crazy that it's not really something that we all fully practice. And I don't know why that is or how that is, but you should do it.
And that's coming from you saying, even still, I would like to say that I do it, but it's not always an everyday practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's you're just not able to. You can do your best, but
Yeah. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing, this thing called life, isn't it?
it is. Yeah.
So I had a question come when you were saying that, and I've completely lost it. So hopefully it'll come back to me because it was a good one too.
Good.
But so let's keep moving on with some of these questions that I have for you. Let's talk about, for example, having your children or having your child. How do you feel that it's impacted the people that are surround you, the people that are the more important people to you, acquaintances? My question came back.
Awesome.
Okay, so here's my biggest question. One of the things that I noticed, because I remember at the same time as you were diagnosed, or well, at the same time that we thought that you were going to be diagnosed with MS, and you were grateful for that. One of my friends was diagnosed with stomach cancer at the same time. And in my process of going through this, because it was the same month that you both were told this, in my process, I just kind of got silent with it and was like, wow, holy crap. But what I watched in people around you both was them talking about how your diagnosis or your illness had an impact on them. I heard people say things like, well, I'm going to miss you so much, or it's going to affect me in these ways. And no one came to you and said, holy shit, how do you feel about what was just told to you? Did you notice that same thing?
I did. It was really interesting. We are all the center of our own universe, aren't we?
Aren't we?
And it's, yeah, that was kind of interesting. I did notice that a lot. What else was a interesting observation is seeing people show up that I never thought would. Pardon me. And then having people who I thought would be by my side through this from start to end chose to back away and became so fearful. And another crazy dynamic is that people, watching people mourn you before you're even gone, just that added to the anger.
Yeah.
I had family members that, they were beside my, by my side for a month or two and then completely ghosted. It was so bizarre. So bizarre. Everybody has their own process. I try my best to remind myself not to judge
and not take it personally.
Because it really
clearly
has
not
nothing
about you.
to do with me.
Yes.
No.
And that's the thing that I noticed about the diagnosis was that it really ended up not being about you at all, is a lot of the people. And so I encourage you guys, if you're listening, think about it when someone says to you that they've received any kind of diagnosis, and stop thinking about yourself for a minute and think about them. Think about how it's going to impact them instead of how it's going to impact you. Think about how their lives are going to change, not about how your life is going to change after they're gone, but how their life is going to change, how they're going to be impacted, how you can show up for them more, how you can really try and put effort in, and also being in that place of fearfulness, because there's this place where Tania and I have been very, very close for many, many years. And knowing the hurt that's going to come because of the repercussions of this also affects both people. It makes it so that it's hard, because then you want to be super close to this person, but also this person has their own stresses, their own things they need to deal with. You have your own stresses, your own things you need to deal with, but being considerate of the person that has the diagnosis and not making it all about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because
yeah, well said.
It's been a challenge, but also been very eye-opening for me. And I have found in my side of these things where there's times I want to run away, and there's times where all I want to do is hug her and be close to her. Mm-hmm. And we've had some very, very hard conversations about life, about death, about ALS. We've had, I want to say I felt closer to you since you had this diagnosis in a lot of ways, because of how much more open it made you. But I feel like a lot of those conversations scare a lot of people off, because even me, who I find I'm very open to these conversations, those conversations were also scary for me.
Sure. Yeah, you've completely stepped up and became even more snug into my inner circle. and that's so appreciated, and it's really cool to see somebody allow themselves be vulnerable to the prospect of loss, and to not be afraid to be close in spite of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something that everybody has the ability to do.
Yeah.
We need to protect ourselves, or, you know, in however we feel that we need. And especially in the Western culture, we really protect ourselves from the concept of death and loss and mourning.
Yes.
And it's much easier to focus on other things.
It is.
Yeah.
It definitely is. I also find that for me, I would rather, and I know we all have the same as what you had said just earlier in this interview, where you said, like, as much as I want to try to embrace everything I have in front of me right now, some days that's just not possible. And for me, even in this process, there's a lot of like where the fear comes up, and then I go, it doesn't even matter right now though, because what I can do is, if there's that fear, I can deal with that fear at a later date. I can, and we don't know, like, I could be in a car accident tomorrow and I could die, right?
Mhm.
I could pass before Tanya passes. There's so many
Mhm.
things we just don't know in this life. And these things I feel like have just reminded me almost on a daily basis that, like, yeah, today might suck, tomorrow might suck, but there's going to be a good day somewhere. And even if there isn't, we don't know what we're going to have, because the day could be over and it could be over, period. So definitely looking at that, and what would the person that you love need and want in these moments, and try to respect those things and not make it all about you. But also trying to find your footing in that can also be challenging. And I feel like that's also one of the things that comes up as well, because not many people communicate quite the way that we do. And
Right.
so some of the family members that maybe have pulled themselves away are doing it because they don't want to swarm you, or they don't want to do whatever they're doing. But what they don't realize is what you actually need, because they're not having the conversations with you about what you need, about what you want.
Yeah, sometimes it's just there's a lot of us don't know even the, how to begin to communicate about easy stuff, let alone the hard stuff.
Yes.
And yeah, it is a good reminder to um, be compassionate and empathetic on what other people are going through. And the same goes for me too, to be compassionate and empathetic for my friends and family who are deeply impacted and don't have
The emotional capacity.
yeah, to be able to deal with it. And goes along with everything within our day.
Yes. And
Um,
how quickly a day can pass, because that's also something that we've talked about. For me, I, will have every intention of seeing her every week and all of these things. And then all of a sudden I call her and I'm like, hey, it's been 2 weeks. And then she's busy, or she has too many things going on that day or that week. And then it's suddenly now been 3 weeks.
mhm.
And so how quickly those things can all accumulate for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's hard. It's a busy lifestyle that everybody has. And even if we're not busy, we're busy not wanting to be busy. So we're
I feel like when you're saying that, one of the things you're trying to say here is we're trying to be not busy, but be busy so that we're not inside our heads.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good one for sure.
Because for me, getting inside my head and having too much quiet time, I mean, Tony Robbins' thing is get inside your dead, because you get too caught up in your own bullshit, your own stories, your own pity. Not often do we get caught up in our own positivity, our own visionary, our own visualizations, our own goals. We are too busy focusing on the things that our ego starts to go off about and talk about.
Yeah.
So one more question for you around that is, do you feel like you have gotten to better know your ego in this situation? And in ego, I mean that inner child, that the one that has the loudest, most annoying voice that tells you to do all the wrong things.
Wow, that's a good question. That's a really tough question. Um, Uh, I I actually am not really sure where I am in the process because it seems like sometimes I can wake up in the morning and I need to relearn the last 50 years of my life and everything that was in my brain, and all of the wisdom just kind of has floated away. And then I get another new day, new opportunity to meet this ego of mine and show up. And how I'm going to show up is anybody's guess. So I haven't everything is so sporadic and so um there's so many multi personalities that not one thing is nailed down. And as soon as I think I've got it, it's like I said,
The
wake
next day, you
wake
wake
up
up
the
and it's
next.
gone.
It's like it's Groundhog Day all over again.
Interesting. Okay, so another question that's come up for me is, do you find that you have become more spiritual because of this diagnosis, or do you feel like you have lost your spirituality in any way? And you can totally tell me that we don't need to get into this because this is a very personal question.
That's a great question. I waffle with spirituality. And I think I've become much less spiritual, and a lot more stoic, in my beliefs and how my mind wraps around things. Um, so like the idea of spirituality, I guess knowing what the definition of that would be a good idea first before really answering the question, because I know that everybody has a little bit of a different definition for the word.
Yeah.
But for me, what spirituality kind of means is um, not just our life and our soul and our consciousness while we're here with our eyes blinking open, but what that has in the hereafter and beyond.
Yes.
So in that context, I think that I still waffle with spirituality if I have spirituality at all, but more so, um, more so I find it beneficial to not even um, set my mind into that ponderance, because that's something that I'll either know or not know once it happens.
Mhm.
And I feel that for a while I'm here on this planet, with my blinking eyes, I can concentrate on being a good human being, um, revere my life and revere the process of living, and including the process of passing as well. And um, it's definitely an honor, and a privilege to be here. Like, I don't know how many. Deepak Chopra did a super cool video on what it actually takes for a human being to be here, from how many eggs to how many sperm, and being part of the cosmos and all of that. Just the chance that we might be here. Um, and it's pretty awe striking. And also in stoicism, um, the process even of death it's all part of your service to your life and to other people's life and to the life of this planet. So I don't really think too much about spirituality.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Very interesting.
I find it's a little bit of a time waster for me.
Okay. Interesting. I feel like that might be a good place to finish this. How do you feel? Is there anything else that you would like to add to this
No,
interview?
this was wonderful.
It was. It
Yeah.
was. I really appreciate you joining me. Thank you so much. And thank you for being vulnerable, sharing all of these hard conversations that a lot of people are not even open to having. So thank you, Tania, for coming on this episode. And you guys, thank you so much for listening. Feel free to comment below if you guys have questions for Tania. We can pass those tested questions on to Tania and get back to you. Also, spiritualsisterswithsass@gmail.com is where you can send some more of your questions. All right, guys, thanks so much and have a great day.
Much love.
Thank you for joining us on this spirited journey today.
We hope you enjoyed diving into the world of self-improvement with us. Two sisters who found their own unique paths.
Remember, life is a tapestry of experiences, and it's how we embrace them that makes all the difference.
So whether you're on your yoga mat, exploring mindfulness, or simply navigating life's twists and turns, always keep that spirit and sass alive.
We are Colin and Nerdy Locked Up, and we're here to remind you that happiness and abundance are within reach.
Stay connected with us on social media and keep those questions and stories coming. We love hearing from you.
Until next time, beautiful souls, keep doing the work, keep sharing your experiences, and keep living a life that's authentically you.
And never forget to add a little extra sass to your day.
Spirit and sass, always.